Hi, Julia.
Hi, great to meet you.
You too. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing
All
good.
right.
Talking to some fun people today and looking forward to talking to you.
Awesome. Great. Well, yeah, well then let's dive in. So, Evil Dead. It is such a beloved franchise. It's so much fun. You have Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell serving as executive producers. How did it feel to take the helm of this franchise and kind of like direct the next phase of it?
It was exciting, as a filmmaker to be kind of handed the car keys to such a loved franchise,
Mhm.
and to be trusted to, as I said, to go drive that car, but like bang off some things along the way because it's supposed to be a noisy movie that makes an impact
Mhm.
was a real joy for me. And it's always, I think, in life when you're trying to create stuff like this, trying to create cinematic work, it's fun to celebrate these moments, but then you've kind of got to push that to the side, put your head down and be a professional and get on with the job of making the
Mhm.
movie, telling the story that you want to. So, I
Mhm.
afford myself in a moment to be happy, things like when you get the job or finish a draft of the screenplay. But other
Mhm.
than that, I just tried to keep my head down and craft the best movie that I could.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that process because you make some interesting decisions in this movie, right? So there's the theme of motherhood, there's the move from like the classic cabin in the woods to a more urban setting. How did you make those decisions?
By starting with a blank page in a lot of ways and making no assumptions as to what this had to be, I just knew that the context needed to change and that the characters needed to change.
Hmm.
And from there, I just started to think about the things that I'm always attracted to in storytelling. So themes around family, themes around motherhood, themes around like parental fear. Um,
Mm.
I started to kind of put that in the melting pot and think about where I could take this story. And the more you kind of stir that pot, the more it kind of gets refined and things start to show themselves. And I started to settle in
Hmm.
on these sisters and the fact that they're kind of, the opposite to each other, but both kind of suffering at the moment and both having concerns. And then, you know,
Hmm.
the context of a horror movie, people are already carrying scars, and then you double down on that and bring the
Right.
trauma even heavier into their world.
Yeah, definitely. And that really comes through too. How about working with the cast? So what was it like to, I mean, it's one thing to have the story on the page, right? But then it's a whole totally different thing to see it come to life with the work that everyone is doing. What was that process like?
It was great. Like for me as a filmmaker, it's always a joy to see people take the words that are on the page and actually bring them to life, because
Hmm.
you just cannot compare the energy of somebody putting a performance into what you've written versus you just reading it. And I
Hmm.
found a really special cast. I think I found a cast that were gung ho and ready to go on what was going to be a really challenging movie, both in terms of performance, physicality, energy,
Hmm.
levels of fright, all of those things that they had to sustain. Um, and luckily, I think each and every one of them brought something very special. They're a very eclectic family. And I think they're a family that audiences will care about, which
Hmm.
is useful when you're trying to tell a scary story, to have characters and people that the viewer can identify with.
Yeah, definitely. Just with like our last few seconds, any favorite moments of writing or filming it?
Writing it, I think it was a lot of fun once I'd cracked the story. Like that
Hmm.
moment where I knew the story existed and I could start to then layer in all of the darker thoughts that I had.
Yeah.
That was a nice kind of turning point in the process. And then I think filming, there's a particular scene that shot through a peephole. And it's a very technical scene. And it's
Hmm.
an entire fight scene with this restricted point of view. But it was one
Hmm.
of those curious moments where we just got it in a day and we got it perfectly because it's
Nice.
essentially a one take wonder, in a lot of ways. Like, yes, we cut away for a few reactions, but we filmed it. And I wanted to film it with the intent, if I never cut away, that I can play all of this out. So it was this one
Hmm.
extremely elaborate stunt that we planned for and rehearsed and kept rehearsing on the day for hours and hours because I just needed one shot that day. And that one shot would tell this big piece of story. And when we succeeded with it, that was a really, really beautiful moment.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and that is such a memorable scene too. Well, thank you so much for your time and congrats on the film.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your questions.